Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order is a video game that has carefully listened to the subvert expectations mantra that has been the primary directive of Disney's Star Wars creative development in recent years, took it to heart, and then showed everyone how it should be done properly. Despite having come out under the gaming brand that has been relentlessly, and mostly deservedly, bashed by pretty much everyone else, and being part of a franchise that has put out a lot of disappointment in recent years, it is an actual great game, with a moving story, superb if slightly buggy gameplay, and absolutely no microtransactions of any kind. The story in particular is what took a lot of players by surprise. It turns into quite a roller coaster of emotions at certain points. It has obligatory plot twists which, while not being too innovative, in most cases still have the desired impact, and surprisingly, some of the moments are quite memorable, making you scratch your head or just play them back over and over in your mind long after you're done with the game. Those are the moments that I, a fellow wanderer of the internet, wanted to discuss with you today as I go through this list of my personal top 5 moments of Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. Before we start, keep in mind that this video obviously contains spoilers for the game, and that it also might accidentally spoil other Star Wars media, up to and including The Rise of Skywalker. However, you're safe from spoilers for The Mandalorian, as well as Season 7 of The Clone Wars, as I haven't watched either of those, and the only thing I know about them is blah 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 Baby Yoda. Without further ado, let's start counting, shall we? Number 5. I Can Stop You. If you played the game yourself, you probably remember that Fallen Order puts you into the shoes of one Cal Kestis, a fugitive Jedi Padawan with a complicated relationship with the Force, portrayed by the handsome Cameron Monaghan with the usage of the motion capture technology. While his main quest involves him and his friends zip-zapping around the galaxy in search for an important MacGuffin before the Empire can find it, things get complicated as he finds himself pursued by a branch of the Imperial Secret Services known as the Inquisitorius, with the hunt being led by the menacing 2nd and 9th Sisters. Cal Pal is lucky that the sisters don't stick together in their pursuit, so they can't wombo combo him Dragon Ball FighterZ style, but they never stop chasing him, so eventually he has to stand up to them, resulting in spectacular lightsaber duels. Spectacular, that is, unless you're me and have to die about 10 times before even beginning to comprehend their moveset and accepting the fact that you can't just trade hits with them and have to practice parrying instead. One such confrontation occurs in a most fitting location, atop an ancient, mountain-sized tree on the nature reserve-themed planet of Kashyyyk. We've just made an amazing new bird friend who gave us a ride of our life, and now not only has the friend been taken away from us most rudely, we've also got this highly aggressive ogre lady yelling at us that we're trash. Unapproved trash, mind you, and how we have no chance of success. And she has the skills to back this claim up too, with a superheated helicopter propeller for a weapon, perfect predictive parry timing, and a variety of dodge-or-die attacks. The 9th Sister shows you exactly why taking psychic toddlers away from their homes to raise them as warrior monks and not equipping each of them with a kill switch is a bad idea. But don't worry, with the power of determination and doing an adjustable difficulty slider, you're bound to overcome her eventually. And when you do, the result is immensely satisfying. Not only are we treated to the only instance of a humanoid character being dismembered in the whole game, curse you, EA! We also get the first glimpse of the true badassery our dashing protagonist can produce. He calmly declares himself a winner, like a true Jedi, easily evades a sucker punch that even his master might not have seen coming, and then lands a finishing combo worthy of a fighting game, with an epic one-liner too.
You can't stop the Empire! I can stop you.
This dude might not defeat the Empire right now, or ever, but he'll make damn sure he never misses an opportunity to cause them as much grief as he can, all the while staying true to his Order's code and letting the bad guys know they had it coming. And we'll be around to watch it, raise our fists above our heads in a victory pose, and shout, "Yes! Get 'em, Cal Pal!" Number 4. You would be wise to surrender. You know that feeling of unease when everything is going just too well, and you know, like you're absolutely sure, that something horrible is about to happen? Fallen Order takes this feeling and runs a marathon across the whole galaxy with it. Eventually, you start almost constantly looking out for equipment malfunctions, ambushes, and betrayals, and can't relax even if things do go according to plan. As the game approaches its end, and our main characters invade a high-security Imperial fortress, then proceed to raise some glaring red flags in their conversations, you are absolutely convinced the whole operation, along with some people's lives, is about to come crashing down any second. Especially when the deplorable second sister that has been on our tail throughout the whole game has finally been defeated, and we've taken our prize away from her. Oh, what's that? She even looks like she's thinking of switching back to the light side. Uh-oh, this is it, we're all gonna die. Naturally, the punishment is as crushing as the victory in the last battle was sweet. Out of a conveniently deployed fog, slowly but inexorably, walks the man, the myth, the legend himself, the mighty Darth Vader, the face of the Empire, the big bad boss of the Inquisitors. His commanding presence alone is enough to drop everyone's morale below zero. And for poor Trilla, it seems to have gone all the way down to -3, causing her, as per laws of the genre, to freeze in panic. Then, he proceeds to show the party, and the joyfully squeaking player, why exactly he is feared and revered like no other man. He slices the gasping Inquisitor in half with his iconic lightsaber, except we don't actually see any dismemberment. Curse you, EA! Casually tosses Cal's newfound teacher aside and into a lava pit, like someone would swat at a fly. And when you try and fight him, well, you can't. He has no health bar, he blocks your every attack, and instead of toying with you, gets straight down to business and practices his favorite pastime of remotely choking helpless human puppets while menacingly standing over them. And when you actually manage to break out of his clutches for a few precious moments, he decides to one-up his game and starts tearing the whole room apart with the Force. All of this allows the game to turn from a badass action-adventure highlighting how the Jedi vastly outclass most other armed forces in the galaxy, into a straight-up survival horror where you are completely helpless, and your only chance of accomplishing anything is to run away with your sheathed lightsaber between your legs and hope the monster misses you as you make your exit. Vader's databank entry, as well as his later show of power where he remotely stabs Cal with his own weapon and holds back the entire ocean with the Force alone, really hammers in the idea. This man cannot be beaten, no matter what you do. Even in a setting that is already considered more fantasy than sci-fi by many, it will take a miracle to bring this walking nightmare down, and by the time Fallen Order takes place, the miracle is still too young to properly wield a lightsaber in combat. Some people may ask, how come this amazing moment is so low on your list? Well, remember how I said in the beginning that this list was personal? While this is a really cool event that reminds the player just how far out of their depth they really are and drastically changes the mood, making sure you stay on edge, it was quite expected. Nowadays, you can't just have the player invade the heart of the enemy territory, kick everyone's faces in while there, and then have them be shocked when everything goes south faster than birds in autumn. Besides, I got slightly spoiled by YouTube suggesting me a video that had Fallen Order Darth Vader in the title, so I already knew he was going to show up. Granted, I didn't know when or why he would stop by, and I already expected one of the big names to make an appearance anyway, but this did take away from the experience a tiny bit. Before we continue our trip down the hyperspace lane, I just wanted to quickly remind you that if you're enjoying this video, it's a great idea to like it, leave a comment, and subscribe. I know no one would care if I said this would mean a world to me, but in addition to more videos like this one in the future, you will also get a whole bunch of regular gameplay and commentary videos. For example, I've already uploaded a playthrough of Fallen Order on this channel, so feel free to check that out and see if you enjoy the style. More similar playthroughs are coming in the future, the next target being Resident Evil 3 Remake. Now, on with the show! Number 3. Careful with the thing, it's been through hell. Different people have different opinions about flashback sequences. Some see them as the epitome of the show don't tell rule of storytelling, while others consider them lazy writing that slows down the pace of the story and takes the focus away from the main narration, causing partial audience apathy. Fallen Order deals with this conundrum by making flashbacks an actual in-universe ability of the protagonist. Using the so-called psychometry, Cal can not only witness past events, but even experience them as if they were happening to him and not other people. These Force echoes are also set up in such a way that Cal-Pal needs to interact with them to tap into the past, not just to hear or witness a story, but to understand what is happening around him right here and now, and what we should or shouldn't do next. Awesome as this ability is, it often extracts a heavy toll. Our hero can feel fear, pain, grief, and other unpleasant emotions of people who originally participated in those events. If he isn't careful, he can activate it at the worst possible time, while his many enemies make their decisive moves, or even kill him outright. Naturally, as the game approaches its end, there is powerful payoff for this elaborate setup. As per the requirements of his quest, Cal-Pal eventually completes the journey that the late Master Eno Cordova undertook before him, enters the alien vault, opens it with a secondary MacGuffin that he's found before, and passes another test in which he witnesses a vision about some kind of a bad future. After all is said and done, his ultimate prize, the holocron that would allow him to revive the Jedi Order, is within his reach. However, as soon as he claims it, the second sister pops out of nowhere. Seriously, how did she even find this place? Announcing for probably the 5th time in this game that this is the end! After a lightsaber duel that was probably intended to be the second shortest in the whole franchise, after Obi-Wan's final encounter with Maul, but still took me 2 tries even though I had 8 stim canisters at the time, Cal-Pal proves how much he's grown over the course of this journey by easily predicting Trilla's next move, knocking her flat on her rear end with what looked like the weakest force push ever, and disarming her in a way that sadly isn't possible outside of this cutscene. Curse you, EA! However, this slick move proves to be his downfall, as by reaching out to Trilla's corrupted Kyber crystal through the Force, he inadvertently activates his psychometry and gains access to one of the most traumatic memories in the whole galaxy. A Jedi warrior becoming an Inquisitor. We don't see too much, and thank goodness for that, but what we do see, and what Cal must be feeling, is already horrible enough. The despair as Cere, Trilla's former master, abandons her with a group of panicking children in hopes of distracting the nearby Imperial patrol. The pain as the nasty-looking robotic arms apply electric discharges throughout the Jedi's whole body, while she screams in unbridled agony and her spirit breaks apart. The cold, hateful resignation as the newly appointed second sister is brought before Cere. The nauseating psychic backlash of the latter's dark side attack. As this absolute nightmare ends, Cal finds himself alone on the wet floor, with the Inquisitor and the holocron long gone. Not only is this a highly emotional, tense moment that is one of the highlights for most players just because of what we're shown, it's also a big character growth moment for Cal. While he had already had his fair share of traumatic experiences, he managed to successfully evade Imperial custody for years, so he couldn't truly relate to someone who had been meticulously tortured to the point of completely breaking down, both physically and mentally, and becoming the enemy's loyal servant. Over the course of the game, a major source of domestic conflict, besides the ship captain's old habits catching up to him, was Cal-Pal's ever-present distrust of Cere, after finding out her actions were the reason her Padawan was captured and brainwashed. But after pretty much experiencing what both women went through firsthand, he realizes that whatever they did afterwards was understandable, and he was arrogant to judge them, Cere in particular, for cracking under such titanic pressure. He promptly apologizes and reassures his unblinking companion that he will stick with her to the bitter end and see the quest completed. This sequence is a low point for the main character that results in him learning a valuable lesson and strengthens his bond with his allies in spite of the unfolding events. A great application of a great storytelling device. Number 2. Trust only in the Force. Throughout the game, we are constantly reminded of the impact the Clone Wars had on the galaxy. From the scrapyard on Bracca where we start off, to the massive destroyer wreckage on Zepho, to the Wookiees and partisans on Kashyyyk who never stopped fighting, to the wastelands of Dathomir, whose residents experienced the full extent of a Sith Lord's wrath, despite remaining neutral in the war. This extends to our protagonist as well, as he was essentially raised during the conflict, and its events shaped who he is today. He constantly reminisces about what had happened, or hints towards events that he would rather forget. While we follow Cal around on his interstellar journey, we find out that his very connection to the Force itself was somehow damaged during the dreaded Order 66, something very rarely heard of in the Star Wars universe. It's obvious something outstandingly horrible must have happened for such a calamity to occur, but we don't quite find out exactly what it was until we experience it through another flashback sequence. This major complication occurs as we close in on our goal, with the key to the final puzzle being just outside our reach. In order to obtain it, Cal Pal and his trusty robotic sidekick must brave the ruins of an ancient palace, or tomb, heavily saturated with the dark side's influence. Faced with a heavy immovable door, and seemingly no other way around, our hero decides to sit down and meditate in order to figure out what to do next. Yes, meditate inside an actual heart of darkness, and it goes about as well as you'd expect. Cal is thrown into his most traumatic memory, the day Order 66 was issued. It starts innocently enough, with the young Padawan running around his home ship's interior, chatting with and high-fiving clone troopers he meets on the way, and enjoying some light acrobatics training, while his master Jaro Tapal observes. It all goes horribly wrong in an instant. As Supreme Chancellor Palpatine is recovering from the worst plastic surgery of all time, he enacts the final stage of his plan, FaceTiming clone commanders in order, to eliminate their Jedi generals and get rid of the last major threat to his rule. Tapal and Cal are somewhat lucky in that they aren't among the first batch of Jedi to have their troops shoot them in the back, so the Master feels his fellow warriors dying through the Force, and manages to act fast enough to save himself and Cal momentarily, as well as initiate an escape plan, while the frightened Padawan makes his way through the ship's ventilation system, and the towering Master plows through squad after squad of troopers with relative ease. The clones still have strength in numbers and keep coming from all directions. Along the way, Cal loses his lightsaber, and when the two finally make their way to their destination, it evolves into a big freaking problem, because now Tapal must protect them both on his own. No matter how skilled or awesome he is, it isn't enough, and eventually, a few shots manage to land, causing him to kneel in pain and breaking the hilt of his own saber. Cal does manage to buy them a few precious seconds with his burst slow ability, so they do manage to escape as the ship spectacularly explodes. But it's obvious Tapal won't make it, his body riddled with blaster bolt holes. As life fades away from his eyes, he instructs his student to hide and wait, and teaches Cal one last lesson: trust only in the Force. Man, if only they outfitted those escape pods with healing stims. But even after this horrible vision, it seems the trouble isn't over. After Cal is catapulted out of that memory, he awakens to yet another nightmare. His master somehow standing before him, completely intact, announcing that it's time for another instruction. As the former Padawan swings his lightsaber to no avail, this Tapal keeps hurling insults at him, referring to Cal's fear, insecurities, and hesitation, claiming those were the reason the master was slain. Our hero's emotions reach their peak, and he proceeds to scream in utter despair and squeeze the lightsaber so tightly he breaks the kyber crystal inside, rendering the weapon useless. This sequence is not just an emotional apex of the whole game to Cal, it is also one for the player. From the moment they see the first clone trooper, most people will already realize what is going on. However, instead of lessening the emotional impact, it manages to raise the tension, just like in a horror movie when we see the monster's point of view as it stalks its next victim. We're left moving through the ship, almost on autopilot, biting our nails and constantly repeating one question in our heads. When? When is the Predator finally going to attack? When will the screams ring out? When is the last thread going to snap? Cal's friendly interactions with the clones further increase the bitterness of the upcoming betrayal. And when disaster finally strikes, the ship being destroyed around us, the radio chatter of the clones, the poor kid trying to make sense of it all, and the escape scene create that overwhelming feeling of despair, of irreversible, global, cataclysmic changes being contained and represented within this one ship. It's not just the ship falling apart, it's the old way of life, the order of things everyone is used to seeing, getting annihilated in a galaxy-spanning atomic blast, being replaced with a new order of things that will be dictated by the fallout as much as by people behind the changes. It's not just the clone troopers going crazy and having an irresistible urge to shoot their superiors. It's the whole war-weary galaxy pinning the blame on the Jedi and declaring them traitors for a seemingly easy solution to end the conflict. It's not just Cal Pal trying and failing to make sense of the situation while figuring out what to do next. It's the entirety of the Jedi Order being out of the loop, complacent, ill-equipped to deal with the contemporary challenges and threats. Even though, like I said, this list is largely personal, I believe this sequence, this powerful string of moments, deserves to be near or at the top of anyone's list. I am convinced of that. As we close in on the number one item on this list, which at this point most viewers can probably guess what it is, I just wanted to take another small detour and make some quick honorable mentions of some of my other favorite moments that were considered for the top 5, but didn't quite make it for various reasons. I still believe they deserve some time in the limelight, so here they are, in chronological order. A particularly memorable cinematic experience was the crew's first arrival on Kashyyyk, with Cal and BD-1 hijacking a giant Imperial assault walker known as an AT-AT, piloting such a massive mechanical beast while blasting through enemy infantry and machinery alike, causing a flurry of explosions and a panic in the Imp's forces, made the player feel incredibly powerful, and was a great fun deviation from normal gameplay. Not only that, but we even met the famous rebel leader Saw Gerrera. The scene was just long enough to make a lasting impression and just short enough to not become boring and repetitive, making you crave for more. However, ultimately it was just that, a fun, inconsequential distraction. The walker became unusable, Saw disappeared just as suddenly as he showed up, and whatever advantage Cal's abilities provided to the rebellion was quickly negated, as the Inquisitors were soon to arrive, their guidance allowing the Imperial forces to drive the last remaining rebels into secluded forest areas.
No, you're not doing that again.
Moving from lush forests of Kashyyyk to scorched lifeless rocks of Dathomir, another event that particularly stood out was the fight with the massive Gorgara. While not the most challenging boss by any means, the excitement comes from how radically different it is from other encounters. Instead of fighting a slightly taller humanoid, or a beast the size of a car, or a chicken-legged armored vehicle that runs away from you like an absolute wuss, we are treated to a humongous kaiju, bigger than any opponent we've faced by orders of magnitude. This bat-bird thing is so huge it could probably use our lightsaber as a toothpick. The fight is split into two distinct stages as well, completely switching the setting, the mechanics, and the immediate objective. However, as cool as it is, it's still another distraction that has little to do with the main plotline, doesn't bring us any closer to our goal. Heck, we don't even gain the respect of the local tribesmen for slaying this massive nuisance, and feels more like a proof of concept for future installments than a legitimate organic part of this game. Moving on without leaving the Angry Red Planet, the other major boss found here, the fallen Jedi Taron Malicos, doesn't lack anything that Gorgara has, besides maybe originality. What makes the situation with him especially interesting, however, is the involvement of Night Sister Merrin, her struggle of choice of who to trust between Cal and Malicos, and her decision to finally reject the creepy old man's manipulations and assist in taking him down once and for all. It felt great to gain a new ally and win not just with brute force, but with hard-earned wisdom, in a true Jedi fashion, and in a way, Malicos himself can be seen as a dark version of Cal, because of how similar their circumstances were in the aftermath of Order 66. With all that being said, this dual-wielding topless madman wasn't particularly interesting as an antagonist, easily written off as yet another Jedi twisted by the Purge. And Merrin wasn't very relatable or charming until some time later, when the crew went into their final mission together and she showed more of her personality. So these factors took away from the showdown somewhat. Speaking of the final mission, yet another moment that really stood out for me was Cal's ultimate decision at the end of the game. It was somewhat unexpected and even disappointing, yet when you look back at the events of the game, it actually makes a lot of sense. The holocron itself is yet another test for Cal, and he uses the knowledge he has gained throughout his journey to achieve the best possible outcome. Keep the item out of the Empire's hands while not taking up the highly risky job of training a new generation of Jedi that was most likely doomed to fail at the current time. As smart of a compromise between success and failure as it was, we still knew something like this was going to happen, just not in this way. And, awesome as it was, it still felt like going back to square one, reducing the satisfaction and the excitement of the ending. And now, with all that being said, it's time for our best and final pick in this video. Number 1. Failure is not the end. Jedi training is no walk in the park. We've always known that. However, while we knew some details, including the trainees' stages of progression, our knowledge of the sacred processes behind raising the galaxy's mightiest defenders has always been scattered and incomplete. This game offers yet another glimpse into those activities, taking the player, together with our crew, to the ice-clad planet of Ilum, one of the few places in the galaxy where Kyber crystals, an essential part of the coveted lightsabers, occur naturally and in great abundance. While there, Cal and BD must endure freezing temperatures and solve puzzles left behind by old Jedi Masters before finally entering the Crystal Caves, where our hero hears the call of another crystal, which he must retrieve in order to succeed. For one does not choose a crystal, it chooses you. More trials await ahead as we are stalked by Imperial probe droids, tread carefully on the unstable cave floors, and nearly freeze to death as Cal falls into a water trench with no source of volcanic warmth. And there it lies, growing ominously. Our very own unique gem that will help us restore our glorious weapon, our confidence and our resolve, so we can... Wait, what? The crystal suddenly snaps in half in Cal's cold, unfeeling hands, causing him to completely break down and collapse in despair. All this journey, all these trials, all the hardships we went through, has it all been for nothing? Just as all hope seems lost, a familiar voice rings in our ears. BD-1's holoprojector flares to light as we see the visage of Master Cordova for one final time. His message is a very special one. It turns out that at the time of this recording, Order 66 has already been carried out, and the balding Master, just like every other Jedi, is feeling the pain of his comrades perishing in a cruel twist of fate. However, something is still keeping him going, not letting him simply sit down and wait for apathy and death to catch up to him. He still believes that failure, no matter how catastrophic, is simply a natural part of any path. And as long as what you're doing is right, as long as your mission lies ahead of you, there is still a reason to keep going, no matter how bleak things may look. He has a heartfelt conversation with BD-1, who somehow also appears in the image, thanking the tiny droid for his unyielding faith and service. And in this moment, we see a demonstration of how determined the little guy really is. BD agrees to have his memories wiped for a chance to someday find someone worthy, just because of his absolute trust in Cordova's plan. This makes Cal realize how much responsibility truly lies on his shoulders. It's not just him who sacrificed everything for his quest to succeed. It's also the people who came before him, who set the whole operation up in the first place, as well as those who are still by his side, still giving their all for the cause. With renewed vigor, our hero rises to his feet and proceeds to insert the two halves of the crystal into the two lightsaber hilts he has on hand. Not only are we treated to some sick fan service as we can pick and choose which color the new weapon is going to be, but miraculously, both parts light up with new blades. This means that now, Cal can wield not just a dual-bladed lightsaber like his master did before, but he can split it up and have a blade in each hand, unlocking new incredible-looking moves and allowing him to have a weapon to defend himself even if he throws one at his enemies. The crystal didn't just shatter to become useless, it decided to give us an amazing upgrade that we didn't even know we needed. This is probably the most uplifting scene in the whole game, more so than even the ending. It goes from the lowest point of our hero's spirit so far to a sudden, sky-high apex. Proves BD1 is not just a cute and reliable companion, but also the absolute MVP of the entire story, and is probably relatable to a lot of people going through hard times in their lives. I can speak for everyone, but at least it was extremely relatable to me at the time I played it, as I was dealing with some real-life issues and frankly still am to this day. This message of hope, of never giving up no matter how tough things get, of always looking for another way if the chosen path is blocked, is one of the best, most wholesome messages any work of fiction can carry, and video games are no exception. So, that's it. Those were my 5, or should I say 9, favorite moments in Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. Do you agree with my picks? Do you find some other moments better? Or did you fail to find any moments that resonated with you in this game? Let me know in the comment section below. And if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and maybe even tell your friends about it. And keep your eyes peeled, because I've got more videos like this one coming in the future, and not just about this game. For now though, I must take my leave. So goodbye, and take care everybody. Happy Star Wars Day if you're watching this on release day, and may the Force be with you.